Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So today I'm just going to give a quick overview of the actual project, like the deliverable itself, since a lot of you have already done both the graphic organizers and ready for that next step. So these are the 5 things that you can kind of go off of. The goal of this assessment is to make a persuasive visual. So you want something that is able to persuade your reader to come over to your side. And so I guess the task that you're trying to persuade them on is, should we still be doing artificial selection? And so um, you can choose maybe just like we should be doing selective breeding but not GMOs, or we should do both, or we should do none of them. And so that's kind of the overall goal of this assessment. And so to kind of tell that story or help you put that persuasive piece together, these are the 5 ways in which you can do it. Also, we have these 6 things that need to be included on your actual infographic or pamphlet, brochure, whatever. Um, uh, and so these first 3 are focusing specifically on those 2 organisms that you selected and the graphic organizers. So you're first going to talk about the organism that you selected for selective breeding. And so let's say I chose a chicken for my selective breeding organism. I'm going to give an overview of what that species, like the traits that it has, and why it was bred in the first place. I'm going to explain like how this species has been modified. So kind of tell the story of like throughout time, what has happened to this chicken. So how did it go from the original chicken to the chicken that we see today? And then lastly, this is like the goal of the species. So, or the goal of the chicken. So um, what was like their end goal. So for instance, if I chose I think it was the silky chicken, it's used for egg production. So like how has the silky chicken been selectively modified or selectively bred to reach that point where it's able to produce more eggs than another chicken? And so that's kind of what me explaining what the goal was and how it got there. On the other hand, you would have your organism for your your genetically modified organism or GMO, and you would explain again what were those traits that this thing has, um, how was it modified, and kind of go into like the specifics on that. Don't just say that it was genetically modified, but like how was it actually modified? And then lastly, like what was the goal or the end goal of that? So for instance, if I was looking at Arctic apples, um, it was modified by adding in some traits for, I think it was like anti-bruising, because that was the goal. Like they wanted an apple that would preserve longer on the shelves. It would reduce your waste or your food waste, and so they wanted something like that with the goal. And so you're kind of telling like the steps that it took for number 2, how it went from the original apple down to um, the Arctic apple that we see today. So these first 3 are focusing specifically on your organisms. You're just kind of telling me the story behind these 2 organisms, one that was selectively bred, the other one that was genetically modified, and you're explaining the process of how they got to where they are today and what their goal was in the first place. 4, 5, and 6, this is focusing on selective breeding and genetic modification, like the processes of them. So for number 4, you're looking at just selective breeding and genetic modification in general. Like what are different between these 2 methods? What are the same between these 2 methods? You're kind of giving an overview of like what each of these things is, um, as well as what's different and the same between them. For number 5, you're looking at controversies. So with specifically to like GMOs, like we hear a lot about, well, GMOs give you cancer and all this stuff. So like, in what sense is that true? What are the controversies behind them? Make sure that you're citing sources here. Notice what sources are trustworthy. So where you're getting your sources from, what are those trustworthy sources saying? What are the non-trustworthy sources saying? And then kind of like outline an argument for either or for both selective breeding and genetic modification. And then lastly, like I said, this is a persuasive piece. So you want to construct a statement like of whether we should do these things or not. So personally, do you think that artificial selection, or maybe just selective breeding, or maybe just genetic modification, uh, like are they beneficial to society? Should we stop them both? Should we stop one over the other? Like where do you lie on that spectrum? Make sure that you also explain why you think this too. And if you can connect your concluding statement to those trustworthy sources and the controversies from up above, like that would make your argument even stronger. So these are the 6 things that you that need to be in your project, and these are the 5 ways in which you can make that project. And in case you're wondering where this is on Google Classroom, we can, let's do this actually. So you're just going to click on the classwork tab up on the top. That's all I did. I just opened it in a new tab because I was writing the thing for tomorrow. And once it loads, under semester 2 assessments, you're going to open up the artificial selection assessment, click view assignment. Oops, maybe. There we go. View assignment. And actually, I don't want that. I want instructions. Maybe. Give it a sec. There it goes. Okay. So in this top right, you're going to see a box that says your work. I'm not going to see it because I'm a teacher, but you're going to have a section that says right up here, your work. So you'll have you'll have 3 documents up here. The one that I was looking at was the artificial selection assessment. So this is going to be the bottom one on the your work tab. So if you want to look at this document yourself, it's going to be under your work, and it's the bottom document here, and it'll link to something that looks exactly like this. If you have any questions on the actual visual itself, let me know and I'd be happy to clarify. Or if you have questions about what each of these things mean, again, reach out and I'd be happy to help you out. This is going to be due at midnight on Thursday because I'll spend Friday when you all don't have school in class or here grading, trying to get through these. So the sooner that or not the sooner, but give me a good product by Thursday. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I got for you. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a wonderful